This is Jordan Edwards, and this is the Business Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. JJ Winans, how are you, my friend?
Good afternoon, kind sir.
How you holding up through all this?
Really good. So, I mean, just in my perspective, I've been fortunate, just like, you told me earlier how you've been fortunate to where, active duty in the military, we don't bar a government just being wiped out. We don't really get affected by much. We just have to adapt and overcome to how we do certain things. And this year has been, for everybody, just interesting. So just how we've adapted in the military itself it's been intriguing.
I can't wait to hear about that. Let me set this up for the viewers. You and I are teammates. You have been in and out of the Budokan depending on your active duty status and when you've been around. We've trained together. I had the pleasure of teaching you, and you were a beginner in some of my classes when I was teaching the beginner class at Budokan. And you are an active duty Marine. Yes. You're also an active duty student. And you have an amazing story that is all about the come up, all about the grind. You truly have, from the little that I know about you and remember about you, and really why I asked you to be on this today is that you went into the military and you truly made something of yourself, and then some, and then some, and then some. So let me pull something up before we even get into the conversation and you start talking. I saw this on Instagram and I said, this guy is he's something else. I mean, it's incredible. So let's see if we could share this little video right here. And after I play this, you talk about this. Let this play.
It'll make me get emotional.
I got emotional when I saw it.
Joshua Winans.
Listen to this crowd. I hope this broadcast picks up how they went crazy for you. When I saw that video, I was like, oh my God. It was amazing. It was incredible. I mean, I'm so proud of you for everything you've accomplished.
Thank you.
And before I let you speak, what really touched me about that, one of you graduating, I mean, you went into the Marines, you've made something of yourself, but something that I'm so passionate about that I'm going to be writing about in this book, and I wrote about in my last book, is about self-education. When you're a young kid, a lot of young people, 18, they go to college and it's just lost on them. But you went into the Marines, you learned, you grew so much, and then they paid for your education, and then more education, and then more education. So enough with me. Just talk to me about your whole come up from like where you started out.
Oh, whew. All right, here we go. So I knew I was going to join the Marines. So I've always been into martial arts to kind of coincide with the martial arts aspect, me as an individual, as a professional, and also, my collegiate career, everything. I've always been in martial arts. So my family was always adamant on knowing self-defense. So I did Taekwondo and karate as a teenager, as a kid. I've done all of that. And then when I joined, the military, I wanted to learn something else, because in the military we have martial arts, but it's more so gauged at, and it's kind of gruesome, but it's the profession that we're in. It's more towards like death. Like these are techniques that you're going to use on the battlefield to take someone's life. It's not so much, the disarm, depending on the training that you get. It's more so the lethality. Like this technique is like, we have an eye gouge technique. We have a throat technique. We have certain techniques where it's like with knives and whatnot, like this is going to take an individual's life. And I wanted to learn something, obviously a level down from that. So when I was in Hawaii, that's when I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. To go back a little bit, coming into the military, I always knew when I was 11 years old, I always tell this story because it's funny to me, because I knew that day it was like light bulb. When I was 11 years old, there was a commercial that came on. It was a Marine Corps recruiting commercial. And this dude, normal civilian, he was running through a tunnel of blades. He climbed up a big wall. He went into the stadium, and this dragon from nowhere representing the devil came, and then a sword, a Marine Corps sword, came out. he fought the dragon, he killed the dragon, the flame went to the sword, and he turned into a Marine. Right then and there, I was like,
do you know you must have seen the miniseries on HBO, Generation Kill?
Mm-hmm.
When they say, how many guys did that commercial get?
Yeah. Yeah, me. that was the commercial that got me. And ever since then, I told my mom, because before then I had wanted to be a sensei. Like I wanted to be a karate instructor. And then when I saw that commercial, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And then that's when I started doing my research, because my family, my mom and my dad, they gave me that foundation to, and it's funny too, because I was just thinking about this the other day, to where my mom and my dad always instilled greatness. And it wasn't greatness to where a millionaire, a billionaire greatness. It was greatness to where I don't care what you do, as long as you are happy and you're the best at it. That's all I care. If you are flipping burgers at Burger King, if you are the best at it and you're happy, that's all I could ask. That's all I could ask for. And that's what they instilled at me at a young age. And I took that with me throughout my whole career. But I started doing research, because that's just always how I've been. I've always been like, I want this, I want this, I want this. So I started doing research to where, what did I want to do in the Marine Corps? And I found out these programs. I wanted to join the Marine Corps. I wanted to become a drill instructor, to train recruits at boot camp to become Marines. And then I wanted to go to war to serve my country. And then I wanted to do the program that you met me while I was doing, called MESEP, and it's the Marine Enlisted Commissioning Education Program. So where you go to school full time, you stay active duty, you keep the benefits, you keep your time in service, but you go to school full time to get a degree in whatever you can get a degree in kinesiology, art. You can get a degree in whatever you want to get a degree in, as long as you get a baccalaureate. And then you commission as an officer in the Marine Corps. Because I've been in over 14 years now. I moisturize. People always say I look a little bit younger than what I look, and I'm always like, I moisturize. I don't know what to tell you. But that's the program that I was on, and it's all these things to where everybody's like, "Oh, you've been so lucky in the military," and I'm like, the term luck to me is so intriguing, because if you only knew,
right?
It's not luck. There was doors that were closed to me. But I always preach and always try to tell individuals, just because one door closes doesn't mean there's not another one. Doesn't mean that you can't climb through the window. I'm not telling individuals to like rob a house, but just metaphorically to your life. If a door closes, open up another one. If you want that specific door open, keep knocking.
That's right.
And that door open up. And that's what I've done throughout my career to be able to achieve what I've achieved. Because I was in nursing. I met you right after that. I was in nursing school for 2 years, because I wanted to switch branches, go into the Navy, be a nurse, become a pediatrician later on, and earn my doctorate in medicine. I did 2 years of nursing school. I failed out. So I failed out in one class. Like, it's nursing school at Malloy College and Rockville Center, one of the best schools in the country, smoked me. I'm humble enough to admit that. Like, one of the classes, pharmacology, got me. Yeah. And I ended up having to switch my degree plan. So I switched my degree plan to business, because I always wanted to open up my own businesses, as I got older. And then it's been that I haven't regretted ever since, because I was able to get my bachelor's degree. I was able to grind and get an MBA, a 2-year program in 6 months. I had to get approval from the deans, to where they're just like, hey, Jay, they knew me. Because I'm very personable. I make sure everybody at the top knows who I am, and that's just me as a professional.
We heard those cheers at the
ceremony. Yeah. Yeah, that's just me as a professional, to where like you're gonna know who I am, because that's just who I am. Like, I'll talk to anybody, I'll conversate with anybody, I'll give advice to anybody. Like, I'm a free resource that anybody can use. And I had to talk to them, and they gave me the deal to where, like, JJ, we'll let you do it as long as you keep a B+ average and above. So I did it. I graduated with honors. I was one of the top in the MBA class for that time frame. And then it was weird, because I stopped going to the academy, because I was doing too much. And not only mentally, but physically, my body was telling me, like, bro, slow down. Right. Because I was getting ready for TBS, which is the follow-on training. I was getting ready for, physically. I was running, I was hiking, I was weightlifting, I was doing MMA, BJJ. and I had to give one of those up. And, you know, professionally, I had to choose what was going to excel me forward professionally. BJJ wasn't going to be that one at that time in my life. So I had to stop going to the academy. And then once I started training more, it's weird because last year, I don't know if you saw the picture of when I had surgery and it looked like just a bunch of.
Oh, do you mean this picture that I'm ready to pull up? So that was a perfect lead-in. I mean, you and I didn't schedule this together, but you know, you do have a story that I think is worth telling, which is why I really wanted to reach out to you.
Yeah, that hurts just looking at it. So around the time that I stopped, my body was telling me like, "Yo, bro, you need to slow down." So I was like, "Okay, I have to give up BJJ. I have to focus more on running. I have to focus more on hiking to get ready for TBS, because TBS is something that makes Marine Corps officers unique, and that is to where no other branch in the military does this. So no matter what your MOS is, what your job is in the military or in the Marine Corps, you have to go through TBS, and it's called the basic school, and it's for all officers, warrant officers, and regular officers like lieutenants, captains. They have to go through this school, and essentially it teaches you how to employ a platoon and company level in combat. Every officer does that. No other branch does that. Only the Marine Corps. That's one of those things that puts us above other branches in terms of how effective we are in combat. And I was getting ready for it because we do hikes down there, and you're wearing, and you're hiking with 100 plus pounds, your weapon, Kevlar, you're going up and down hit, like it's rigorous training. So I was getting my body ready for it because I had not been in the operating forces for about 4 years. So I had to get my body accustomed to it again. As I was getting it ready, after, you know, I stopped BJJ, I was hoping that would go to help. And then I kept training and I kept pushing myself, and I wasn't able to get at the level that I was before. And then I wasn't able to run at all. It was excruciating. I would start running and it would be excruciating pain, because I can push through a lot of pain. Because I mean, being in the Marine Corps, you age, your body ages a lot faster than if you were in the civilian sector. But I ended up having to get x-rays. I went to the doctor, I got x-rays, I got MRIs. He's like, hey, you have a bone spur that you saw in the picture on your ankle. It's one or two things. You can wear like heel lifts and do physical therapy and try to push through it, which in the Marine Corps, that's not really a thing. Or you can have surgery. And I'm like, well, let's go in there and cut it out and have surgery.
Right.
And then had surgery, and that was interesting in itself, because a lot of people like are empathetic when I tell them about it. But at the same time, you know, I've done a lot of things. It sounds like, I don't know what it sounds like, but I've done a lot of things alone because I've been single most of my life. So I was doing everything in my apartment on one leg, and like in short time frames and short spurts. And like I had to cook, I had to clean, I had to do laundry, I had to do everything while in a cast. And like I had to plan it in a way to where if I was standing up for more than 5 minutes, my whole leg from like my mid shin down would swell, and it would get excruciating because I just had surgery. Because they literally cut down the middle of my Achilles, opened up the Achilles, took it off my heel, shaved off the bone, attached my Achilles back, and closed everything up. So that's why, like, even now I'm not, I would have to say I'm like 80% over a year later from surgery. Yeah. But that's why at that time it was rough. But I always tell people, it's like, in your darkest times, you find the light, and that light is yourself. You discover who you are, you know. And it's like, I try to compare it to some people that are religious, to where, like, you know, Jesus went to the desert. It's comparable. I didn't go to the desert, but it's kind of the same concept, to where you go through a very tough time. You go through this hard time, and you discover things about yourself. You know, just
you're coming off, you're finishing these programs, you've been in the military, you get this major adversity. It's such an incredible story of how you've overcome, and you're building, and, you know, you're putting out this message on your social, and it just seems like you're building towards something. And I'm catching you like possibly right before some amazing things start to happen in your life. Is that what you do get that sense too? Like, I mean,
So that happened this year. When my business partner actually. So my buddy earlier this year, because I've been in this very collegiate kind of spin. Because even when I was cooped up on my futon for over 2 weeks, not being able to do anything, I'm just because I hate being stagnant. Like I'm not comfortable. I'm not like that individual. I'm just content with life. Like I always want more, not only for myself, but for those around me. My big life goals before I'm 40 is, impact lives, which is that's a constant thing for the rest of my life. But create employment, you're beating me right now. Create employment, build my own business and generational wealth, because my family, we come from a poor background, like small town Ohio, poor, Salvation Army clothes, hand-me-down clothes, like ramen noodles was a delicacy with hot dogs in it. You didn't really realize that till later on, but I do still love that ramen noodles with hot dogs in it. It's really tasty. It's really tasty. But I came from a poor home, and I want to create that generational wealth because I want to take care of my parents. Like I'm the kind of man to where like my parents aren't going to, if they end up in that area, they're not going to a nursing home.
Right.
They're going to live with me. They're going to live, I'm going to get them a house, or I'm going to get them a house with home care, that generational wealth where I have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to create for, hopefully one day if I have kids to where, hey, this is what I've created for us. Now it's your turn, you know, and it's not only for this family, it's for everybody around you. It's that, I'm going to say corporate social responsibility, but within the family, like it's our responsibility to impact the community around you, because if you impact one person, that person might impact another person, and then so on and so on and so on. And that's how you make communities better, is you better where you're at. And that's what I want to do. And it's funny because my buddy, the beginning of the year, I've been in this really collegiate role to where even when I was cooped up on my futon, I'm like, man, what am I going to do? So I went to a real estate course. I went to a real estate course to get my real estate license. And then I'm like, damn, you know what? I'm going to do this too. So I ended up getting advanced cert in marketing. So I went to college again to kind of get like not a second degree. It's like a certificate, but I took 6 courses, MBA level courses, to get another degree essentially in marketing. Yeah. And towards the end of that, I'm like, man, I'm still recovering. I still got the rest of 2020. Like, what am I going to do? You know what? I'm going to go for my doctorate. And I've always wanted to be a doctor in medicine, but I'm just like, I'm going to go for my doctorate in business because I love business. I love the concepts. My whole thing is strategic leadership and development. Like my whole career, like, especially when I was a drill instructor, they would always give me troubled recruits. They would give me troubled Marines that were drill instructors that kind of lost their way and needed help to form them into a better Marine. And for me, I always emphasize, like, if you are a good man, if you're a good woman, if you're a good human being first, everything else will just fall into place. A lot of people try to focus on the professional aspect, which is good, but you need to focus on yourself first, because if you create yourself as a good human being, a good person, and good morals, just passion, dedication, love, consistency, that's going to reflect. Yep. If you just focus on this, you're going to lose on this. And
in my business, we have a core value. One of our core values is people do business with people that they like. People do business with people, and people do business with people that they like. It all comes down to personal relationships. So what exactly is your PhD in that you're working on?
So it's going to be a doctorate in business administration with a focus in strategic leadership and development. And it's comparable to a PhD, but PhD is more, it's open to pretty much anything. This doctorate one is only focused on, I have to do it on business, which I still got 3 years. I'm trying to do it. I want to be Dr. JJ before 35, and I'm 32 now. So I got 3 years to keep grinding.
You have a lot of years, even though you're still relatively young. I pulled up another thing, and I am getting to something here, and you're doing an amazing job leading, telling down the story. I read a few books over the past few years, but 2 specifically this year. One I reread, and then the other one let's see here. Can you see my screen here with
Yes, I can.
Okay, with your books. So I had the opportunity to read Generation Kill many years ago, which is a story about the Marines in the first invasion of Iraq. Then I read one of the leaders, the lieutenants in that book, Nathaniel Fick. Do you know Nate Fick? He was a part of that platoon. He was
I'm gonna look it up.
Harvard educated super genius who was leading a platoon, and he always seemed to get himself in trouble over the politics and the bureaucracy of being in the Marines. And then I had the opportunity to read a book that came out in the past 12 months, and that was General Mattis's book, Jim Mattis.
Oh man, yes.
And so he actually, I believe he mentions Nate Fick in that book. And so I read a book about the platoon level. I read a book about the lieutenant level, and then I read it from the general's perspective. And I was so impressed with, and I didn't know this about the Marines, their focus on what they want you to read, that they have a required reading list.
They do.
And Jim Mattis in his book says something along the lines of, if you haven't read 100 books, you're functionally illiterate. And here I see you, a Marine, and on the exterior, I mean, your muscles, your martial arts, you're a drill instructor, but you're so learned. And this is all later in the later part of life. Normally people stop learning after they're 22, 23. Here you are at 32 and you're still at it. Did they instill that in you in the Marines, or is this something that you instilled in yourself? That's what I want.
So it's kind of both, but really I would have to say the Marine Corps has given me the tools, and I've just taken those tools and run with it, I think, because, depending on your tempo, and this is something too, the Marine Corps shifting in, because we have a new Commandant. Commandant is the top dog in charge of the entire Marine Corps. So we have a new one, and his emphasis is on education, which I'm a huge fan on, because a lot of people, they don't like college degrees. They're like, oh, you don't need a college degree to be successful. I'm like, true. And they always try to use individuals that have degrees. They always try to use like Steve Jobs or Tim Cook or Jeff Bezos and stuff like that. I'm like, or Mark Zuckerberg, like, oh yeah, they dropped out of Harvard. I'm like, because they didn't need it. Yeah. They went there because of the stigmatism that you need a degree to be successful, which I do agree you don't. However, they were a phenomenon to where they got it. Like Beethoven just knew how to play the piano. They got how to do those things. Like Bill Gates, he just got it. Mark Zuckerberg, he just got it. That's why they dropped out, because they were just like, I could teach this. Let me go do my thing. And that's where I try to get people to where, like, unless you just get it, you need that education, because it's kind of the foundation that you continue to build your house of just knowledge on. And it's a continuous building, because like Bill Gates, he teaches himself, because he's at that level now, because individuals that are educated, if they want to learn something, you immerse yourself into it. You don't need to go to college anymore, because you have that foundation on how to study. You have that foundation on how to test yourself and how to instill that knowledge inside of your head. And the Marine Corps is kind of giving me back a little bit, because depending on your tempo within the Marine Corps and how you operate, I would have to say, like, before I was a drill instructor, I tried to do college, but it's kind of hard because, my first 8 years in the military was training, working, training. I went to Afghanistan, and then I became a drill instructor. So it's kind of hard to do college if you're always going to the field, or you're always, doing training, or you're always going somewhere. So it's kind of hard to do college. So I didn't really get into that whole college learning mindset until the end of my tour as a drill instructor. I would have to say about 10 years in. And then that's when it started kicking in. And then obviously MECEP's opened my eyes, because I've only known the Marine Corps. Like, this was my first job so far, and probably my only job, because the next job I create, I'll be a CEO or a COO. Like, I'm not, you understand that. But this is my first job to where I only knew the Marine Corps. And being on MECEP, it's opened my eyes a lot, and it's humbled me, and it's taught me something that's not intangible. And that's like that human being concept. Because in the nursing program, you know, my friend Deirdre, I remember her for the rest of my life because it's funny. She taught me how to speak to civilians. And it sounds weird, but being a Marine, our lingo is very blunt.
Yeah.
It's very gruesome, probably unprofessional, depending on who you're talking to and their kind of how their mindset. But she taught me how to talk to individuals because, you know, as doing clinicals, you're in a hospital working with normal individuals, old people, young people, children. You have to know how to conversate. And she taught me how to do that. And MESEP's kind of given me and instilled in me even more education. Like I'm huge on audibles. I love audibles.
Me
like
too.
I'll do an audible more than I'll sit down and read a book because I'm still in college. It's like I'm burnt out on reading, but I drive places and I get stuck in traffic. So I'm a very good listener. Yeah. So I can listen to a book. Like if I do a road trip, I'll listen to 1 or 2 books. Yeah. You know, another book that you might like is The Mission, the Men, and Me. It was written by a Delta Force operator that's retired. That book, it's phenomenal in terms of leadership and just overall just development of your subordinates. That I always recommend that book to people too as a leadership tool, because that book, like Mad Dog's book, General Mattis's book, and I would say that one too. And then also, what's a Navy SEAL?
Jocko Willink?
No, Goggins.
David Goggins.
Yeah, David Goggins. His book too. His Audible. I always recommend his Audible above his book.
Yeah.
Because have you listened to it?
Yeah, I listened to it. I listened to it and I read it, and when I get a book and an Audible, I love Audible, and I also always buy the book and I listen to it because I commute 12 years of commuting. And when I get to the office, I have the book on my desk and I pull it and I highlight and underline and earmark and dog. And if I'm on vacation, I take it, I reread books. Books have been the #1 thing in my life that's helped me get success. I had a fine college experience, but all of my learning has been post-college, taking courses myself and just reading book after book after book. And I got the answers I was looking for. I had the questions and I needed the answers, and I found them on the pages of books from generals and leaders and business leaders and politicians. And all kinds of people. I love to read and I love to listen to books too. And I just can't, that's why I pulled up that picture, and I was so interested to talk to you about it because you embody this so much. I mean, this whole thing is about writing a book, right?
Which is a goal of mine, by the way. Just throwing that out there.
Any questions, you let me know. It's an amazing process, and it's addicting. So, but the point is that I'm so fascinated. I didn't have the opportunity, or I guess I had the opportunity, but from where I come from, which is, you know, a place of privilege. I went to private school. I didn't have a single friend that went into the military. The first time I knew someone went into the military was I had a single friend in high school who got accepted into the Naval Academy.
Oh, nice.
Jared Streeter, and he was a lacrosse goalie, and he got accepted, and that was it. Other than that, I didn't even know a single person until I started to go later in my life. And, you know, you definitely have some guilt about that when you're a civilian and you see a war going on for 20 years and people dying, and you're like, it never even occurred to me. It wasn't on my radar at all. But now I love learning about the military and reading these stories of leadership. It's just such a thank you for everything you do, and you're such an amazing guy. The whole video at the beginning just shows it, when your whole school is going nuts for you, and that also has something to do with you, not just the fact that you're in the military. I always say, you know, being an asshole comes in every religion. You could be in the military. You could be a Christian asshole, a Jewish asshole, a Muslim asshole. It doesn't discriminate. So being in the military is certainly not enough to be a good person. You are.
It's definitely not. Let you know that it's definitely not.
Yeah. So I pulled up another. I pulled up one more thing over here, and this is a few days ago, I think. Let me share my screen. See if this works. Oh, I pulled up the same one again.
Did you read a lot as a kid?
No.
No. Yeah.
No.
Oh.
You're at the Oculus here, which for those who aren't from New York is on the side of 9/11. This was on September 13th. It's a crazy thing. I was in 10th grade when 9/11 happened, coming out of science class, and I'm from New York. At the time, I was in boarding school in Massachusetts, and I remember the feeling. But you went and actually protected this country and served, and you're still serving. I mean, that's an incredible, incredible thing. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I love going to 9/11 because it puts everything into perspective.
Yeah.
And then because it's wild to me, but I understand at the same time. A lot of my friends from college have never even gone to the memorial, have never even done any of that because they have family that had passed away during 9/11, and they just psychologically and emotionally they don't want to go through that again because they already went through it once, and they don't want to go there. But going to 9/11 to me, if anybody always visits, whenever they come visit me, that is the number one spot I always take them. 9/11. I've been there so many times, and I love it so much that when I went from the enlisted ranks and I commissioned, I had a ceremony. I went through the logistics of planning with the World Trade Center, Freedom Tower, to where I had my commissioning ceremony up top, and I had it on like the 79? No, I think 79. I had it on like the 79th floor to overlooking Manhattan because
Wow.
I'm a city boy at birth, but I'm a city man at heart. Like I love the city. I hated it when I first got here because everything's so like they run into you. Traffic gives me anxiety, all this other stuff. And then I fell in love with it because that's how my brain, like I'm just always, and I can relate to New York City, and there's always so much to do here. But yeah, 9/11 puts everything in perspective because everybody that was alive during that time frame, which is crazy too, because now, young men and women that are joining the military this year were born after 9/11. So it kind of puts things in perspective to where like, damn, I've gotten to that age now. I've gotten to that point to where they don't even know 9/11, and it's interesting because if I stay in for a certain time frame, I'm going to be in the military longer than some of these individuals are going to be alive. If I make it past 18, yeah, because if I make it past 18 years in the service, I'll be in the military longer than the ones joining at the time. So it's always that humbling. The older you get, the more experience you get in the military. It's always humbling because it's just like, dang, I've been in the military before they were born, and now I have to be in charge of them, possibly in combat. And it's always humbling to be like, this is my responsibility to not only them, the country, but their families, to not fail them, especially as an officer. So it's always humbling. It puts things in perspective, especially going to 9/11. I love going there because, we were alive. We know exactly where we were. I was in English class, when it happened. And then, we didn't know because there was somebody outside just blaring the radio. And we're like, yo, bro, we're trying to do English. And then it started going over on the loudspeaker and everybody had their TVs on, and not those flat screen TVs, the big old box ones in tubes. But it's just always intriguing because it puts a lot of things in perspective. And this year, obviously 2020 has been crazy for everybody. It's been crazy for me, just the whole path that I've been going on this year in terms of I didn't know if I was going to have to get out of the military, if I was going to be able to stay in because of my ankle and the recovery. And it's also been, it's kind of been a blessing in disguise at the same time because my buddy, at the beginning of the year, he wanted to do something together. He came to me with his vision. He came to me with what he wants to do, and it matched with what I want to do. So me and him, we created a corporation together, and we've been doing business ever since February. And we've been doing fairly well for ourselves.
What are you doing
this year? So right now we focus e-commerce domestically, and then we also do import export, especially into the Caribbean. And then this year it's funny because we created the business, we started getting things rolling together, and then COVID happened. We're just like, it's okay. We're thankful because we're in the military. We still, it's one of those sayings where turn your side hustle into your main hustle.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at right now, to where like we're still serving our country. We still want to do it honorably. We still want to put our all into everything left because we're really big on our name. Like my name, if you hear somebody talking bad about me, it's funny because it happens to me all the time. If somebody's talking bad about me, if that person actually knows me, they're always like, that's not JJ. Like, I don't, and then they come and ask me and I actually tell them my side and they're like, oh, that actually makes sense because this is not you. So I'm big on that. I'm big on my name. And that's why I don't do certain things because my name is if you hear JJ or you hear Winans or you hear, Second Lieutenant Winans, you're automatically going to know, be like, okay, I know who that is. Yeah. And me and him are big on that. And, we started.
What's the name of your site? I want to pull it up.
What's that?
What's the name of your website?
Oh, it's just a basic website to where you can subscribe to.
Okay.
Limited on. It's just limited unlimited without the E's. So LIMITD, and then unlimited without the E. But right now it's just a basic website because the tech guy, he's in training right now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the basic website to where that's our e-commerce domestically. We operate a lot via eBay. And then, in time, we have different phases to where we're eventually going to create our own platform, our own website, and do our own things. So that's just a basic, you put in your information and you get newsletters to products that we have coming in. Because right now we focus a lot on electronics, Apple products, Microsoft products. So, and me and him, like I said, it's been for us, it's been a wild ride because how we develop and how we've been going, especially with the Caribbean, because the Caribbean internationally, it's been restricted because of COVID. So that's put a lot of halts in our whole logistical supply chain and what we want to do down there. So it's been a very interesting year, but at the same time, we're thankful because, we still have, an income every month. We're still able to do these things and learn and, perfect our craft, perfect the process to be able to be better, hopefully, when all these restrictions are lifted.
Yeah, I'm positive that you will. Is this a friend from the military or is this a friend from school? Oh, from the military.
Yeah. He did the same program. He was enlisted as well. He did MECEP, and then he commissioned. And we both want to. So he's from the Caribbean, and we both want to be able to create kind of a method and it's methods that's been used. And we're both like, he's a philosopher. He loves to read. So we both kind of on the same platform to where like we always research into things to where we can help second world countries develop better because of the restrictions that they have. So let's kind of bring something from somewhere else that's already developed into there to help make them grow, and that goes into the impacting lives and, creating employment. But that's one of the main things where he brought to me. And I was just like, that's what I want to do too. So let's do it.
You think you're New York City for life?
So New York City it's my own end goal. Yeah. My New York City for me is my end goal. I want to live here, but I don't want to I want to live like penthouse live here. So the day that I'm able to wake up and have coffee overlooking the city, that's when I'll know. I'll be like, I've made it, but I'm not done. So let me just keep going. But that is a goal of mine, is to be able to live in New York City. I do love it here, but I have to leave next year.
You do? Where are they taking you?
So after this is where I go to our follow-on trainings in Virginia. It's Quantico, Virginia. It's like 45 minutes south of DC. Mm-hmm. So I go there for my follow-on training. As long as everything right now with my ankle in terms of I'm able to run, it's not fast, but I'm getting there because a year ago I was in crutches. So, I'm able to run, and that just goes back to me being hard on myself. But I'm able to run. I've been hiking every Saturday, kind of conditioning my ankle again to where I can start doing like legit hikes. I'll go upstate and just get ready for it because March is when, right now, I'll be going to TBS to do my follow-on training, and that's 6 months. And then after that, I go to my follow-on training for whatever job I get within the military. So, next year is basically going to be all training.
Fantastic.
So it's good. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because when I go is when he's my business partner, he's the CEO, and then I'm the COO. That's when we'll both be transitioning to where I'm going and he's leaving. So the transition is going to be interesting.
It's great. Well, listen, is there anything you could leave me with? What do you tell your recruits when they're coming into basic training and you were the drill instructor? like what principle do you think I should write about in this book? From all your experience in business and getting your MBA, having this long career in the military, like what is your go-to core value or principle that I should focus on?
For me, it's for me, it's my 4 life pillars. So I made like my 4 life pillars. Another slogan, 2 slogans I always love to use is like, you have to be a good person first. And another good slogan that I always use and I tell people is like, you have to be a good follower to be a good leader.
Yep.
And a lot of people forget that. They just want to always lead, which is good, but you also got to be humble to know when you need to follow. Everybody follows. Even the most top person follows in a business because the board of directors has kind of control over. So you have to be a great follower, be a great leader. But my 4 life pillars are, love, passion, dedication, and consistency. And what I mean by that is you got to love what you do every single day, and not just what you do. You got to love who you are. If you don't love who you are, what you do, where you're at in your life, you need to figure out how to do that. And once you figure out how to do that and find that love, you have to have the passion. If you have that passion for what you do to where you wake up every day wanting to do it, not that you have to do it, that you want to do it because you have that love, that passion falls into play. And you have to have the dedication to do it every morning, to wake up every morning, to be a dad, to be a husband, to be a businessman, to be a businesswoman, to be in the military, to wake up at 2, using military as an example, to wake up 2 a.m. to go on a 20-mile hike. Who in their right mind wants to do that on their own? Nobody. But that goes and ties the love and that passion to where you love what you're doing, you're passionate what you're doing because you know it meets a higher goal to where you might have to protect this country. You might have to serve when the nation calls. That's going to be that thing that prepares you for it. And then the consistency. This is where a lot of people fail in because they want to be passionate. They want to be consistent in something like fitness or something like college. And they figure out like, oh man, this is hard. And then they stop. They didn't have that dedication and that consistency to keep going. You have to have the consistency to keep the love, to keep the passion, and to keep that dedication to excel who you are and what you do, who you interact with, and what what lives you impact along the way. Amazing. So that would be my 4 things.
It's amazing. I mean, I think one of the things I admire the most about you, and it's the reason I pulled up the picture of your Achilles, is that cripples most people. That's it. Honorable discharge. That's enough to anybody would say, oh, you did your best. You tried your hardest. No problem. Mm-hmm. Give up. No, but you're back at it. One of the pictures I pulled up, but it disappeared on me, was you lifting weights and doing squats, and you're like back at it. That's a incredible trait. And then on this podcast, you brought up that you failed the class, and that didn't stop you. You pivoted. That's it.
I always tell people, I'm like, it's been used many times. It's not something new that's been said, but diamonds aren't formed by just a little bit of pressure. Diamonds are formed by thousands of pounds of pressure not even inch per, was it centimeter or something like that? But they're formed by thousands and thousands of pounds of pressure. It's either going to form into a diamond or it's just going to be crushed. Yep. And it's up to you. You got to be that diamond to where, pressure, you're going to fail. It's weird, but I love failing. Because if I fail once, I usually don't fail twice. Mm-hmm. Because I learn and I take it. It's that humbling factor to where, like, did failing out of nursing school hurt? Like me pridefully? Yes, it did. Because if anybody's been to medical school or any time of medical school, the hours upon hours upon hours of studying and sacrificing of just your overall social life, it's a lot. It's a lot. So when I failed out and I had to switch degrees, my pride was hurt because I was like, I don't fail. That's not what I do. And then having to choose a different degree. But I mean, I don't regret it because the path that one door shut, I opened another one, and here I am still opening more doors. So
it's amazing. Well, that's what I love about reading books, is that you find out about the journey and you see how much failure it takes to get to the top. And every time I see someone who's on TV or a podcast and it's all sunshine and rainbows and there's, I became a billionaire. That's almost never the way it goes down. And typically people who tell that story are full of shit and they're phony. Yep. And you want to most likely avoid those people at all costs.
Yep. Because even Amazon, people think Amazon just became a $100 billion corporation overnight. Like, no, they were actually bankrupt in the early 2000s. Yeah. Like, they failed. So You just gotta, I mean, that just puts everything in perspective to where, and that's why I think where a lot of people kind of, they relate with me, and even via social media, because I'm transparent. I'll tell you my failures. I'll tell you my successes, because I think that develops us as who we are as individuals. Yeah. I'm not one to just be like, oh, I'm always succeeding. No, I'm not. I tell my failures. I'll tell my story on social media, because it's a platform to be able to do that. And people see that, and people I haven't even met will reach out to me and ask me for advice, because they see the type of individual that I am. And that's also humbling and kind of gratifying at the same time, to where people are actually seeing me via social media because of how I portray myself. And it's the truth. You know, I portray, you know, the transparency of who I am as a leader, because, you know, I get backlash. No, what's the word I'm looking for? I get pushback.
Yeah.
I can't think of the word. I get pushback because, you know, being as an officer, you're supposed to portray perfection. And I don't, depending on who you talk to, I don't like that, because then that one time I fail, now that whole perception of who I am is fallacy. Yep. Vice, if I portrayed who I am as a man, who I am as a human being, to where I fail, I succeed, but I'll never quit. And I always do what needs to get done, as long as it's ethically correct to get it done, I'll get it done. If you portray that and you fail, people don't look at you negatively now. People actually look at you as like, oh, I can look up to this individual. I can emulate who this individual is. And I think that's where a lot of people try to, just like you said, they always, that sun shines and rainbows, where it's just like, bro, no, that's not how it is. Like, if you actually know somebody, that's not how it is.
Yeah. Well, listen, this was amazing. Great conversation. Thank you so much. If I could be of service to you in the course of you starting your businesses and you need anything, you please reach out to me. And if I need anything, I know exactly where I'm going to call. I won't be shy. I never am. Keep doing what you're doing on social media. I absolutely love it. Such an inspiring message that you put out. And let me just pull that up for those people, so they could follow you. Great tag, combat_Ken. Here's a picture of you lifting. I mean, it's just crazy, the work that you've put in. Really proud of you for everything you've done, and really, really grateful for your service. I know that we'll get back on the mat soon.